Be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't in fun, no one will be sorrow. Won't be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't in fun, no one will be sorrow. And I won't be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't in fun with no one will be sorrow.
No more porn, alright. No more spirits being poured, alright. You don't want your spirit so poor, alright. Not even beer, not even subpar, alright. Move slow, alright. Don't call it, you don't even know, alright. Move forward if you may be made for, alright. But don't keep looking at the front door, alright. Move by faith, alright. You don't know what is and not safe, alright. Don't dwell on your mistakes, alright. Don't go back where you escape, alright. Lead, alright. Don't watch TV, read, alright. You got everything you need, alright. Don't be greedy, alright.
Be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't no one will be sorrow. And I won't be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't find no one will be sorrow.
Don't judge, alright. Instead, just spread love, alright. Be grateful when your record picked up, alright. Don't worry about when you don't get pub, alright. Forgive, alright. Listen up, live and let live, alright. It's more than life trying to get big, alright. It's more than life trying to get biz, alright. Don't rush, alright. Oil, pull, floss, and brush, alright. Take time, no fluff, alright. Don't cuss, alright. Sweat, alright. Don't stop now, do another set, alright. What you give is what you get, alright. Use your head, alright.
Be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't no one will be sorrow. And I won't be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't find no one will be sorrow.
Don't waste time, alright. No use being online, alright. All you have to do is write rhymes, alright. Watch for signs, alright. Time's not real, alright. Listen to what you feel, alright. Take time to heal, alright. Don't keep pain concealed, alright. Breathe, alright. Deep, alright. Eat, alright. Sleep, alright. Keep faith, alright. Do not lag, keep pace, alright. Bad days and good days, alright. Give praise, alright.
Be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore wine. And I won't in fun with no one will be sorrow. And I won't be found in the shadows hiding, drinking anymore
What up, y'all? We got a little camera situation here. Let me fix this real quick. There we go. There we go. What's up? What's up? Welcome to another How Billy Sees It. Today is June 13th. Oh, let me put the volume up on this. Volume up. All right, how about now? All right, what's up? Welcome to How Billy Sees It, June 13th. Just want to put the camera on and get in here, start talking. Hope everybody's good. Man, so much has been going on. Working and living. And, I think I've been good. No, I think I missed last week on this, but we've been consistent with Saturday morning cartoons. I don't know if anybody, if you haven't seen it, you need to go check it out. It's on the same channel. Every Saturday morning at 11, my wife and I have been doing like a chat variety show. It's been a little bit of conversation, a lot of conversation, but also a lot of we've been doing improv and drawing and coming up with interesting like interpretations of what acronyms and interesting stuff. It's been great, and we've been able to talk about some real shit. So check that out. But this is me. This is me solo when I do these How Billy Sees It, and I look forward to these. Yo, I've been looking more and more forward to these. I think for a while I was I don't know. This is nervousness, but I think it's a wrap for that. I'm feeling good here, and I wanted to talk about some more stuff, and I wanted to draw, and I wanted to just get on here and practice. No, I didn't want to draw. I wanted to do actually. I wanted to sculpt, which is something I don't do enough of. I don't get a lot of practice on my sculpting. So, let's see. Let me do some sculpting while I do this, and maybe talk about some stuff at the same time. Is that possible? Can we do all that? Let's find out. Let's find out. Setting it up. Let me go to this guy. Boom. Here we go. Using my program of choice. It's powerful giant Blender. Check it out, blender.org. It's a powerful 3D and 2D program. And it's 100% free. What? It doesn't make sense. They make movies out of this thing. And I've done a lot of cool stuff with it. So, so I was trying to figure out what to do if I did sculpt. And I saw this really cool picture on, I saved it a long time ago. So I said, let me go back to my old saved pics on IG. And here's this cool black lady, like she got like a superhero outfit going on. I wanted to do some stuff with the crown. I said, let me try that. Shoot, did I lose it? I lost it. I lost it! No, I had it. I have it in the thing here. Let me find this giant. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to try to sculpt. And I haven't been sculpting in a minute, yo. So I've been saying how rusty I am, but let's test it. Instead of calling yourself rusty, let's get into it. All right. So that's the pick. And I'm just going to start. I'm going to start. And the thing I wanted to talk about while I'm doing this, I don't know, man. I was thinking about just identity, because I think it's the next kind of progression from the other stuff. We were talking about love as oneness and as truth, and we were talking about separation. I think probably what's going to happen here is I'm going to do some sculpting, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to do some sculpting, because I don't know if I can do these things at the same time, but I will give it a shot. And if one suffers, then I will kind of break it up. But for now, let's give this a shot. So yeah, man. So we're talking about love. We're talking about oneness, and we're talking about different ways of thinking about ourselves. And in the last joint, we were talking about separation, and also the different ways we think about ourselves. Talked about how much of the ways we think about ourselves is contrived, and that like this experience is an infinite experience, and how complex it is to think about what infinity means, and how difficult that is, and how instead things get chopped up in order to better understand it, and things get separated so that we can make distinctions and find distinctions. We can actually even appreciate distinctions. There's some benefits that come from it. in terms of the experience. You can experience things when you differently, maybe even more intensely. You know, it can produce passion. It can produce even, again, even a contrived, made up distinction can create wealth. And I tried to talk about how NFTs is an example of that. So the more I've been thinking about it, I think that I've been trying to like come up with ways to articulate this. I think that this experience is infinite. I think that our perceptions of the experience necessitate some sort of a separation in order to understand, in order to experience, and for our minds to perceive that experience. And I think the key is, as the perceiver, we manifest that difference in a way. We have the capacity to direct the thing that gets extracted from a separation, the thing that is created when something is separated. I think, it's true. Right now we're talking conceptually, right? This is true even on the level of like physical objects. We talk about energy and energy being released and things like this, but I think it's true even on a conceptual level. When you separate people conceptually, there is something that is produced, and the person who is doing the perceiving, who's doing the separation, who has the power to manifest the separation, direct the way that separation is manifested. You see what I'm saying? So when I talked about like I talked about so many of the historical ways that this is played out, totally fictitious, meaningless separations then get to be congealed and manifested in reality by the person doing the perceiving, quite of the powerful person who created the separation. So, all right. And then I think like the way it works too is these separations produce identities. These we identify, we connect ourselves as we try to understand ourselves. That's what happens. We create labels and call things this versus that, with race is black versus white, man versus woman. These are ways of trying to understand this difference. And again, like I said, these differences exist, but they're distinctions. They are just subtle, and some of them are not subtle. Some of them can be elevated to meaningful distinctions, but they're distinctions. They don't need to, and they can't in truth, they can't negate, you know what I'm saying, like the fullness of the oneness of this experience. It's simply a distinction, but it is us. It is powerful people and politics and language and law and things like this. We find ways we have to separate in order to conduct ourselves there, and to understand what we're doing. And again, I tried to say, if we can just treat it like a football game and realize that both teams, at the end of the day, both teams, the New York Giants, let me do my squad, the Jets versus the Patriots, is a whole storied dislike, and there's all kinds of, we're in the same conference, so it's set up for us to be rivals. But at the end of the day, the profits from the NFL get pooled. They all are part of a broader organization, and they benefit. And the marketing that the Jets do, that benefits the Patriots as they build up this storied conflict. They're one. So, but now these identities form, and particularly if we don't like deal with things as one, we can take those separations and really lock our understanding of this experience through that. That's what I think is an issue too, with like a lot of times there's a lot of chat like left and right. There's a lot of talk about the left versus the right. And what I'm seeing now, obviously there are people who speak about things in detail and really try to understand things, and I appreciate those people. But I actually see, first off, I'm not even like sculpting. So let me pull this up. Let me put the main joint up. If you're not speaking fully in a full way about stuff, you know, there's this settling on language like left and right, and that becomes an identity. That's just another identity, you know. It's not anything meaningful anymore. Every few years or every few months, you get a new article, a new video talking about the new left, and they have to describe a whole new set of players, political players, people in the media, and things like who are this or the new right, because it's always a fair thing. So there's someone to be aware of on the other side, and these sides, they sit, they linger, they just get filled with new political issues, new political players. But I think identity is a weird thing. And you know, even as things are contrived and made up, the categories over time are made manifest in the law and in all sorts of actions. Harms are made real and they compound, and there's, you know, lack of honesty and accountability. And so all of a sudden the categories go from being a meaningless made up construction and then have meaning and become real. I think the best way to deal with that, with some of this stuff, with these identities that are real and are meaningful through the historical record, and through their manifestations in the present, we have to find creative ways to talk about these things that also connect with the fact that they aren't real. You know, it can't be. It's an interesting dance, but this whole experience is, this whole experience is, it's like these things are real, but they're not. And it reminds me actually of the conversation Sheba and I were having about, what's his name? Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was, that radio host dude, and he's talking about women, and he made a claim that, I guess, a woman after 35, if she's single, she's trash or something. I think he'd make similar claims about women who are, you know what I'm saying, single moms and things like this. And he markets himself on realness, you know what I'm saying? So I've seen a lot of dudes go, well, shit, he's just being honest. That's what's real. And I just think it's an interesting thing, because what is real at the end of the day, other than a set of assumptions that a group of people have taken on as real, you know? So I just don't find that impressive for that reason, you know, to look at the world and say, okay, we have a situation where, a lot of women get saddled with, child rearing because of all of these political and social and historical norms, and then just kind of parrot back a story about, women's worth. I don't get that. I don't think he was bringing anything interesting to it. You know what I mean? I think the equivalent would be to as some conservatives do when they look and they recognize, they see like signs of poverty and signs of there are challenges in the Black community. They point these things out, and they fail to tie it to a broader historical thing. Like, it's not just true that there's something here. It's true that there's something here, and that's tied to a whole broader thing. And I think a failure to put things in context is really the key thing. And so I want to put something in context, right? I want to talk about identity. I want to talk about language. I think, I'm I'm probably gonna get into sort of non-binary stuff and questions on gender and sexuality, because I think it's gonna lend to that. And so I think it's important. So that whole thing with the Kevin Samuels thing, I hope I made sense there. But the point is that something can be true, but in the right context, you realize how untrue it is, you know? And it's the same is true with, you know, lots of assessments we can make about different corners of our experience, different plots of land and different communities. You can make an observation in one space and, lacking context, make a statement of your truth, but that can be true in a different context. That can be untrue in a different context. And, you know, failure to acknowledge that is a problem, and you can be harmful. You can be injecting harmful stuff to the space, to the discussion. So multiple things can be true. And I'll have this glove on that I do for my hand, but let me just do this exercise then, just to like point this out, you know? Because, all right. So one of the challenges, I think, so I have this, I wrote a piece against this dude called Matt Walsh. This Matt Walsh guy who's, he has a movie he put out called What is a Woman? And he's really trying to hammer home a point against the LGBTQ movement and non-binary people, because he knows what a woman is. And he kind of does a tour of the world and talks to different people. And it's one of those questions that's so absurdly simple to answer, according to him. And he finds it funny, and so do a lot of fans of the movie and of his like work, that they're like, this is so simple, how come no one can answer it? And I think the reason no one can answer it is because identity, you know, being a woman is an identity, and a social identity, and a social category. And that's right in the intersection of so many things, you know, including linguistics, you know. At the end of the day, woman is a word, you know, it's a word, probably first and foremost. Then there are all these other questions that come after that. And so I want to just explain what I mean by that. Okay, so if I put my hand up here, right, and you're looking at my hand, you know, and I say to you, what is this? What is this? And I'll give you time to answer. Now, I've already told you that it's a hand, right? So I led you with that. But it's true that it's a hand. It's also true that it's 5 fingers. If you had said 5 fingers, you would have been right. I don't know exactly how many bones are in a hand, but if you had said, you know, what, it's like 40 bones, it's also 40 some odd bones, I'm guessing. It's also a whole bunch of molecules. That's if we go deep and deeper. There's a bunch of atoms, and, you know, further down, deeper, that's sort of a biological approach to this. It's also outside of this, right? If I had put my hand in this way, it's a different thing. So this, right, you might look at this and say it's stop, right? Let me see, what else could this be? If it's stop, if I put my hand this way, it's the same kind of hand, but now it's in a different position, sort of in a different context. Now you might think it's like I'm asking for something, begging for something. The point there is to point out that all of those iterations of this symbol are true. And there's even further context. So if, like, again, stop. If we were out in the street somewhere and I had like, and I had crossing guard equipment on, I had a yellow vest or whatever, then you would know this was stop, right? You know, how silly would it be if you were a driver and you saw me with my out there and I do this to you and you think I was like 5, you know, and you drive through and you're like 5, great, right? You have to be aware of the context of the symbol. So not only is it a symbol that we have to agree on, but the symbol can be broken down further. You can misinterpret this. What if I had a cut on my hand and I was showing you the cut is what I was actually showing you, and you thought it was 5 or you thought it was stop. You know, if I'm in a hospital in an injury situation and I put up my hand to show you, you know, it's like context is important. And an image can be multiple things. Multiple truths can be true. You can answer a question correct from lots of different ways of talking about the thing. Okay? And so, you know, that's super important. Also, if I was, let's say one of us was hearing impaired, let's say we were doing signing and stuff, there would be all kinds of other symbols for this. I think a woman and a man is the same thing. You know what I mean? In this way. And a man, let me go with a man because like he goes with woman because, you know, that's who he wants to define. He wants to define a group that he's not a part of. None of his friends are either. None of those people over at Daily Wire. I don't know any women over there, but that's who they want to define. I'm going to see if I can, by the same measure, by our same understanding of the hand, try to define man now, okay? So the first thing is that man is a word. I can put it down on paper and it's a word. It's also, so it's made up by letters when I put it on paper. You know what? Let me see if I could, let me come back to this. I'm just gonna shut that down, y'all. Let's go with a clean slate here. All right. So let me make this a pen. All right. So what is a man? Right. So if we're looking at it, eraser stroke. Okay. If we're looking at it, man, you know what I'm saying, in the context of language, what is man? Man is a word that is constructed with M, A, and N. And when you can sound it out, it makes the sound M, man. Man is also that. Man is also biologically, so this is linguistics, right? This is linguistics. What about biologically? Biologically, the way our culture talks about man is biologically connected to maleness, male biology, okay? This is how people think and talk about, this is our understanding about what a man is. So X, Y chromosomes, penis. I'm writing penis. Reminds me of like high school where it was like everybody get all nutty. Male biology, XY chromosomes. You know, what does it mean to be a man in a social space? In a social space, men are considered, I don't know, strong. So strength. What about in fashion? Men wear pants and suits, right? Men are that. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is when I see like Matt Walsh do this video about what is a woman, he is committed to the biology and he's training his audience over and over, and they switch between like language about biological sex and language that is a more social language, like, so, and that's intentional, you know. That's intentional, what's happening here, and it's important to separate it out. So what happens is, I think, like, people aren't realizing, and Matt Walsh and a lot of the fans on that show are not realizing that when you talk about something as complex as a human being, giving them and talking specifically about biology is cool. You have that right. You can do that. That's true when talking about men and women. But that's not the fullness of the experience. And in fact, if you talk to women, their experience has almost nothing to do with their vaginas. They don't wake up every morning dealing with their vaginas. They wake up every morning dealing with a social structure and a political structure and people's ways of thinking about them and seeing them. That is the experience of womanness. When I speak to women, you know what I mean? And I can speak as a man. You know, I don't wake up thinking about my XY chromosomes. I don't wake up thinking about my penis. And like defining myself by that. I do have self-definitions that are related to my experiences as a man, the expectations that the world has of me as a man, as a black man in particular. So those are two identity things that are more pertinent to me. Now you'll say, okay, well, a man is in there, but yes, the experience of a man, you know, it's not biology. And so I think sometimes, like I'll see earlier on, years ago, what was it? Jenner, the trans woman who was with that family, the Kardashians. I can't remember. Anyway, Caitlyn Jenner. Yo, the phrase "I feel like a woman," you know, and so I've seen them kind of throw that out as a joke. Like, you can't know what it feels to be a woman. You know. When I hear that, I'm hearing a person say that yes, they don't know what it feels like to be anything but what they are. And I'm hearing a limitation of language. It's not that, it's like there's this whole thing, is such a lack of trust where the idea is that they're trying to trick us. So she's lying. She's actually out to, I don't know, do what? Destroy society, right? That's the bullshit they throw out. But Caitlyn Jenner exists in a world where they don't feel like all the ways they're supposed to be have told to feel, that the society has told them to be and to perform and to feel. And we've been taught that there's only two ways to be. Let's call those genders for now. There's only two ways to be. And so she says, I feel like the other one. You know, it's a language. It's a choice. It's a lack of language. But it doesn't negate her claim. And I think that's just an interesting distinction that needs to be made. I don't think it gets made often enough. Is that, you know, I think we are all trying to, and especially as we go further in this sort of self-awareness and self-learning, and we go further in understanding the depth of the human experience, we're all grappled with trying to articulate this experience and what's going on and how we feel. And right now, like I was saying to my wife the other day, I was feeling anxious the other day, and she asked me to elaborate on that, and I struggled. I couldn't really. I didn't have any words really, any prefixes or suffixes or any other words other than anxious. And so I had to separate it. I was like, well, I think I'm anxious but excited, you know. I also know what it means to be anxious and scared. I also know what it means to be anxious and like worried about some future event. There's so many other, and these are subtly different things that we just haven't explored. And I think, you know, if you haven't personally explored it, if you haven't attempted to document and know self, then you certainly, we don't encourage it. What I find interesting again is that there's a community out there of people who have the courage to express on their own, on their own standards, and to push against norms, and to try to access like a deeper truth. And they're working on language. You know what I'm saying? They're working on language, and some of it isn't. Some of it at different points, I'm like, it's a movement like any other, like the women's suffrage movement in prior epochs, like the civil rights movement, like the Black Lives Matter movement. There are ways that these movements, they're human endeavors, and they're imperfect, and people are trying to figure it out. And this discussion is there's such a paucity of language here that's what's happening as I see it. And I think that what angers me sometimes when I think about like Mr. Walsh or his friend Ben Shapiro is I'm not sure yet. I think I know, but I'm not sure if it's what they're doing is intentional, or if they actually don't know what they're doing. I get the sense that it's actually intentional, that it's purely an effort of control to, you know what I'm saying, like not allow expressions of human creativity and human experience to flourish and be as full as they could be. I just saw recently Bitcoin came out with a Bitcoin note. They came out with some cash now. There's all kinds of other stuff popping with Web3. There's all these new things. Like I said in a different video, these billionaires are investing so much in rockets, ships, and we're gonna, usher in a new era of like space travel, potentially even commercial space travel. And yet people are there's slim pickings on self-awareness and expression outside of cultural norms. We're all products of our cultures, and you can see that pretty clearly. And the more you get into it, the more you realize how like these are accidents of birth quite often. And the older you get, the more you experience to go out, you realize that the cultures and the norms that you were brought up with, you privilege them because you know nothing else, and you're taught that these are the way things are, but that ways of being are vast and myriad, and they exist all over the place. And a biased sense of what is comfortable for you is only that. Like, that's what it is. It's not, there is no truth that you have special and unique access to. And when you demean other ways of being this way, and you try to warp it into being immoral or odd, and you twist language, like I said, I think, they hype up certain extreme cases of this and that, and they reduce language so that, sometimes they're talking about women, which is a social concept, and sometimes they're talking about female, which has a biological connotation. And I think this is very intentionally confused so that people don't get a sense of what's going on. And so, I just want to say, like, a woman is a word and a collection of letters, and it's a sound or a collection of sounds. It is also, a woman is if we speak about it in biological terms in our culture, a woman, you're talking about XX chromosomes, you're talking about a capacity for birth, right? Birth canal, vagina. But these are all images. Like, these are all parts of something. These are all accepted terms and ways of looking at something. And so I can even say yes to all of those things. And even that, there's some wiggle room in some of that. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. even in the biological space. But woman also means, you know, a sense of like, you know, social frailty. You know, we treat our women, we try to do this like, what is it? Chivalry means to protect the women, and you walk them over to the other side of the sidewalk, and, you know, women are supposed to be dainty. Women are supposed to be good cooks. Women are supposed to be good mothers and excited about child rearing. When I meet women for the first time, I give them hugs, you know. When I meet dudes for the first time, I dap them up, you know. Just little things, little ways of gendering the experience. And so, in my experience, again, the people I know who identify as women, okay, they have, when they're doing that, they're excited for and feel comfortable with an experience that in this society we afford to what we call women. You know, that's another way of thinking about what it means to be a woman, rather than the biological question. What it means to be a woman is someone who deals with our social spaces and the social expectations, the ways that we expect and deal with women. And some, you know, this is an angle of looking at it that is just often like ignored and marginalized and squished so that it disappears, you know. And they'd rather just talk about it this way. But again, like I said, I don't think most women wake up in the morning thinking about their biology as their experience of womanhood. Their experience of womanhood relates to something completely else, and it's related to that, to the social sphere. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna pause there, and I'm going to take a break. Let me put this on that. All right, see you soon. Yo. Yo. Alright. What up? What up? What up? Let me make sure. Alright, that's off. Pulling that in. Great. Man. How y'all doing, y'all? Good. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah, man. That, by the way, was Kamasi Washington. That was Hubtones. Kamasi Washington is a beast. He's a fantastic artist. And I can tell he's a fantastic human from being in the room with him, but also a little bit I checked on him after. I think he's solid. And the music was crazy. The music was a spiritual experience, for a talk. That's been interesting, yo, because for a long time I have called myself an atheist. And a long time prior to that, I called myself a Christian and a devout Christian. And those labels meant something. To be a Christian meant that I believed that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior, that he died for my sins. And so that was key. And so sin was such a key part of it, you know what I'm saying? In the teaching and the preoccupation, you know what I mean? And that's something that got to me eventually, that brought me to think about sin and how it plays out in this world. And, you know, my experiences from working government and getting into, you know, political awareness, and came to a place of, you know, pretty confident that there's no way there could be a God with the kinds of things that go on, you know, and not just the kinds of things that go on, but the kind of indifference that goes on. So, you know, went to grad school for international relations and ethics, and became really interested in the question, and met some really cool people and started having different conversations. And yeah, so continued to be an atheist, right? There's all kinds of, you know, found a moral approach that didn't need God. Certainly doesn't. I think there are interesting secular moral questions that can be answered with a secular approach, you know, without a divine inspiration. That can be approached logically, and it can be approached, we can come up with a framework for empathy, you know what I mean? And I think so that was where I was at for a while. And then I would say that in the last couple of years, though, I have to use a word, spiritual, again. Which I always, for a minute, I didn't like that, because I thought it was like a way to, I thought spiritual was like a little room that people created where they had issues with their religion, but they didn't know how to articulate it, or they were too scared to just call themselves an atheist. Oh, I'm spiritual. You know what that meant quite often, I thought, was that people had an issue with religion and the church, maybe, or their church or something, but they still had a spirit, you know, they were trying to hold on to like a magical space, you know what I mean, that I thought was like, you know, you gotta prove it for it to make sense. You know, it's gotta make sense. You know what I mean? So I think that's interesting, because that ties into some of what I was trying to say earlier about how, like, yo, there's a lack of language, a lack of common, like a foundational, definitional approach to say certain things, to articulate certain things. And, you know, so when I look at how this thing works, how this experience works, it is such a complex and interesting, miraculous organism that has so many moving parts and so many contradictions. And so many like interesting, beautiful horrors. Like let me do this one at a time, because sometimes we don't like the horrors of the world are crazy. Like there's known horrors and there's things we don't know that are occurring. And at the same time, the same is true with the beauty of everything. So I think, and then all the stuff in between that is neither of those things, just a billion trillion like things that, first off, those are all subjective judgments on a thing, you know. And so we're each doing that. We're each experiencing and pulled in different ways. You know what I'm saying? I just think that there's an interesting connectivity that we don't always access, and it's impossible to describe because we use words. We use words to describe things, and we have to, in order to describe and perceive, it seems we have to separate things out. But then what is the whole thing? What is the word for the whole thing? If I want to understand my body, I have to separate it out. I have to look at the different body parts and come up with a theory about the workings of it. And then I have the full thing that I can give it a label, me, because there are other things like it that I can compare it to. So I know myself as compared to this other thing that operates there. So I just think pulling out from this entire experience as part of another higher level, higher order truth, you just don't have language. The language that people have attempted, I think, has all been, I don't know if the different churches use different language, but it's the word God is the one that I'm most familiar with, And to me, that's just a word, and it means a million things for different people, And to me, I'm more familiar. I'm reawakened and reanimated by the word like spiritual, because even there, I don't really have a word to describe it, but there's this thing that it connects to each of us. The other word I can think of that kind of is the numinous. Let me look this up real quick. There we go. Numinous. Having a strong religious or spiritual quality, indicating or suggesting the presence of a divinity. So that's saying having a quality of it. And so it's not necessarily, so you can look at a beautiful landscape. You go to some of the sort of undeveloped parts of America and look out, or just go to nature somewhere, and you can feel it. You feel something interesting, something powerful. You recognize you get a sense of scale again for a moment, of just how vast this whole thing is as compared to you, as we're always thinking about ourselves from inside our heads, you know what I mean? And so you get this thing, and to me, so Numinous is a comfortable place for me, because again, for a long time it would be comfortable to try to not go to this magical thinking thing, not make that leap. That's kind of the space I was at. But now I'm back to spiritual again, because you know, when I said magical thinking, I would say magical thinking with, like, as a pejorative, like, oh God, you know, like, here's a thing you don't know how, you can't explain it, and so you just fill in the gap. And to think of that as like a failure. And I think on some level it is. You know, sometimes it's okay. It's not a failure because it's not true. It's a failure because we're operating in this space called language again. And we're limited in the capacity to describe certain things, particularly entirely unique, infinite, uh, ever changing, um, and these are just a couple of words I could use. Other, like, texts tried to describe it in words, and it's just a thing. So that's where I'm at. I'm back to spiritual. That doesn't mean that I like a lot of these texts or anything, or, you know what I'm saying, that a lot of the ritual and, you know, the ways that this stuff manifests, these are all kind of human constructions again, you know, but there is a thing that escapes us in human language, you know. You think about it, like, no one really knows. No one knows why this stuff. No one knows what's going on. You know what I mean? And science has its domain, and it's an important domain, and I have full respect for it. But then there's also, I understand how disciplines form as well, and institutions form. And disciplines and institutions are also human constructions, you know? It's interesting to look at these things and you think that they always kind of just existed. They're either they always existed, but that the manifestations of the disciplines are human and they sit on top of perception. They sit on top of awareness. Things develop only after people are made aware of it. And even then, you know, the things, language is such a beast, you know. Power is such a beast, you know. So things travel and develop and manifest in accordance with a set of structures that are human. So these are all limitations on what I think is a truth about oneness, and the inability to articulate it or to present it in the forms that can be verified, you know, through scientific verification is not it says nothing about it. It says nothing about that. It's so funny how this works, you know. So how do you articulate truth without the language and without the awareness, you know? That's the question. That was the question. That's the question that I think a lot of non-binary people are trying to traverse. That's the question that Black people in this country have been trying to square for so long as well. That's the question women have been trying to square. You know, this is the thing people have to understand. It's just like in different contexts and in different times, the question was as simple as, are we the same, or are we separate? It's as simple as that, Can I look at you and take in the fullness of you and accept your fullness into this whatever, into this space? And so I want to say, obviously the racial history is horrendous on this. There's a constant separation and a failure to heal wounds. A lot of the trauma, it's crazy. I think that here's an interesting one. So I just saw the other day that the women's soccer team came up with a deal. I don't know the full details of it, but the women's soccer team had a deal with the men's U.S. soccer team where they have an equal pay kind of process now, where the different events that they do, they are going to pool the money and they're going to do halvesies on all kinds of different revenue and this and that. Okay. And it seemed to be a really good deal. All the people and the women who would be able to tell us this was a good deal, they were saying it was a good deal. And so it just occurred to me, it was just an interesting occurrence where it occurred to me how creative that was. Now I looked a little bit further into it. There are a ton of people who made some good YouTube money in the build up to this that swore up and down this was an impossibility, that women were crazy, and that, are you kidding me? The value of these two things, and there's no way, and there's a whole blah, blah, blah. And the women's sports, men's people don't want to watch it, and there's no money. So obviously that discourse dribbled into the basketball discourse with the WNBA, and lots of dudes putting this content out, and lots of dudes cheering it on. There's no such thing. And then boom, they create a deal where it's possible. And from what I understand, they are simply really redefining themselves as one. I'm going to pull this joint up. See if I can pull this joint up real quick. Because from what I understand, they're going to combine marketing and they're going to combine funds and they're going to be dealing with themselves as a unit. The American soccer team. Let me get this down straight. Hold up. Women's soccer. Okay. Let me put this joint up. Okay. The U.S. men's and women's soccer teams will be paid equally under a new deal. The Soccer Federation. Okay? So the Soccer Federation probably already existed. It doesn't say the newly formed U.S. Soccer Federation. The U.S. Soccer Federation announced Wednesday that it reached a deal to pay the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. national team equally, eliminating a contentious pay gap that saw female players earning less. Okay, this federation already existed. They were negotiating contracts and working out pay arrangements between the U.S. men's national team and the women's national team. They've been doing that probably for some time. I have no clue. I'm open to that even being incorrect, but I feel I'm right on that. The new collective bargaining agreement will run through 2028, so 6 years, and include the equalization of World Cup money. Now, I saw they had a cool, they had a PDF that was kind of cool. Said in a statement. Okay, here's the fact sheet. This is what I'm talking about. Desktop. Oh, man. CBA fact sheet. Oh, it's already here. It's already here. Desktop. Da-da-da-da. CBA fact sheet. All right. Open that up. Okay. So, historic equality opportunity. So obviously this is a mix. It's a press thing. It's definitely they want to present their like best story. You know what I'm saying? So equalization of prize money. They're gonna pool the prize money. U.S. Soccer will share 70% of the prize money from any CONCACAF, I don't know what that is, FIFA or other official competition, such as Nations League or Copa America with the participant team. Okay. So check just the language, yo. U.S. Soccer will share 70%. So 70% U.S. Soccer, I guess it depends on what's going on with the different, because they have different, different tournaments they might get into, shit like this, okay? And there are women's tournaments that are international, there are men's tournaments international, but it doesn't matter. Whatever happens, 30% goes to whatever that is, 70% goes to U.S. Soccer, okay? They just close the distinction. And everything is being split as best they can. So sounds like USSF is some other entity that got to get they cut, looks like. And then they split whatever's left. 90 paid to equally, paid to U.S. Soccer. 10% paid to U.S. Soccer. Huh. Maybe U.S. Soccer is another institution. All right. Now, even if it was like this seems to be a huge historic victory for women's sports, women's soccer, and women's sports. And I guess I just want to give it the fullness of what it is, because it's not getting a lot of love, I think, because there's so many crazy nonsenses happening in the world. But yo, this was impossible, and it seems to me that really, at the end of the day, what they've done is they've taken what was once a distinction and they closed it off. And I think it's an interesting thing because that's a powerful thing. And I just want to say that we already understand with gerrymandering, we understand with like, in so many ways, the carvings that are being done are absurd. The ways we think about ourselves are tied to deep machinations and political realities. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with the truth, okay, of the self. And I just think that it's well overdue to consider just how interesting and creative this experience is. This experience is way more creative than we understand, and we've been, made to think that it's not as creative as it is. But when you see things like this, where again, it was impossible. It is possible. It is possible. You understand that, like, there are people on whatever other side that you're thinking of who get it, who understand that there are deeper roots than this other political bullshit. And all we have to do is better communicate and sort of make the linkages when they're obvious and when they're there, and not, be bogged down by prior definitions, because there is a space where this crazy deal would be completely impossible if there was a prior definition that said, no, the men's soccer team is different, unique, just not like the women's one, We can't do it. There's a world where that exists, but that's not this world. And that's true for lots of stuff, So yeah, there's that. Let me go back to my full focus joint here. Yeah, man. We have to come to grips, yo. It's like there's so much, and what's funny is that this kind of awareness is what love is, it's one manifestation of love. No, there's lots of ways to express love. Again, because this experience is more than we know. But I think I think what I've been doing recently, I've been in a really good place, and it's been interesting to think about, to give yourself time to think about what you're doing. And I think what I've tried to do is like to create freely and have some fun and really kind of challenge myself to approach stuff differently. So, and I think that that's kind of what this moment needs as well. There's a stagnation of thought and approach, and as I said, for all the reasons. So there's that. Cool. I think that's that. What have I been on? An hour 20? Yes. Let me wrap it up. Yeah. Lots to chew on there. Thanks very much. Peace.
Body are the laundry list of all of life's unkindnesses, but I still sip tea and chant om and live free, cause hardships and heartbreaks turn to rap epiphanies. And mom told me stay woke, cause all gold ain't glistening. Choose your words wisely, cause the all-knowing's listening. But no worries, I'm Gucci, my thighs are little juicy, my dialogue little awkward, my idols still move me. My life is a movie like Raheem and Mookie. I'm just trying to do the right thing, hope that it improves me. My bamboos accustomed to me, you'll be soon accustomed to me. This tomorrow I got royal hemoglobin coursing through me, and my strength is now inhuman. I get that straight from my Omi, signed in silver mouth the grill of yours and truly.
You better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever, cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever, cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you are.
I ain't get here overnight. I was in that mirror like 4 or 5 times a week on my Malibis, reciting affirmations like holy rites, and I still don't know everything. But I guess confessions from 8x11s and studio sessions seem like it's only right. And trust me, this my therapy, fuck your couch. Finna murk all these Murphy types, funny styling me, shut your mouth. Touch me, I'm slaughtering crews, squads, goons, teams. The queen is coming to rule your region, coming for all of your asses, plus your house. I ain't always have it in me, no tolerance for pretending. I was 14 years old, forcing pills down my throat, so my baby fat diminished. Still got these scars from cutting my wrist when I thought the life was finished. Now they remind me what my lows look like, now I know the sky's the limit. Okay, never claim to be perfect, that's an impossible dream. I'm just saying that I'm worth it, that's the responsible thing. Spend half my life trying to find my life from outside sources, why the only voice that mattered came from me.
You better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever, cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever, cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way
When
you
rock
are.
go in, she too aggressive, that's too masculine. And her content a little too obsessive, just relax a bit. She say she got that's narcissistic, just the facts of it. Nah, I don't really F with female rappers, that's just sacrilege. Glad I learned early not to internalize every income. Daddy told me with every opinion there comes a sphincter, and they would rather she them thoughts than popularize a thinker. Why them lying archetypes is chasing cat, I'm trying to sphinx her. Rap barrel, skin caramello, apparel mainly vintage. Meryl composer, warrior, so every verse became a vengeance. Went through too much hell to not be fine, but they still feigning ignorance. So now I came to click my just do with remaining interest. Baby, I'm a star without the flash frame of Fenty. Came out the doctored up the entire game upon my entry. Kept it 100, messed around and gained another century in this. Now I'm aimed to pop off till my mental chamber's empty. I'm unbothered, your standards is irrelevant. I might F around and rock a body, all this for the hell of it. They've been trying to martyr me for ages cause my melanin. So now I'm soaking UV rays with shaking slathered on my adamant. My dude, I'm magic, my game is God is my mood. It's savage, that's gang, it's Connie's my move. And mountains, my range, astonishing, dangerous. Sonnets like rain and comets, they blazing. Trails through planets, all hell is kind of amazing. That's right, we'll call it self-love. Discovered I was dope and indulge like I'm scale drugs. And you could call me arrogant and that's gonna help love. But if you trying to knock me down, your demolitions fell, bruh, fell, bruh, fell, bruh, fell.
You better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever. Cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever. Cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever. Cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you better shine on them, baby, you a star. You better be exactly who you are forever. Cause they gon' try and change your heart. Don't let up, cause you're so damn fine just the way you are.